Morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Now
Yes,
you are audible, Dr. Madhurima. Yes, very good morning.
Okay, sir. Sir, shall I start?
Yes, please, Dr. Madhurima. Yes, we'll start.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good. Okay, so a very good morning to our respected guest speaker for today, Dr. Vijayata Sharma, ma'am. Our respected director, sir, Professor Dr. Avindu is this Nayak, sir, from Ashadi Wisdom Campus, Sri Lanka. And to all the participants, I welcome all of you back to the third day of the second International Faculty Development Program on the relevance of research methodology in social sciences. Our guest speaker for today is Dr. Vijayata Sharma, ma'am, who is an associate professor of public policy from the School of Behavioral and Social Sciences, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research Studies, Faridabad, Haryana, India. To give a brief introduction about the speaker, Dr. Vijayata Sharma is a triple gold medalist in public administration from Punjab University, Chandigarh, India. She has around 13 years of academic experience from Christ University, MRIIRS, and also has experience in international teaching certification from ISB, Indian School of Business. She has PhD in health policy from Punjab University and is also a postdoctoral research fellow in information science from the prestigious ISB. She also has skills in SPSS, Excel Minor, ME Excel Crystal Ball, or in software, which we have seen during the first International Faculty Development Program, Oracle. She has published numerous articles in the Wire, Deccan Herald, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the Secretariat, the Daily Guardian, Kashmir Age, Mainstream, and even the prestigious Economic Times, Nepal Times, and the others. She has specialization in the sense that she offers a unique profile in public policy and management with specialization in elite fields. She has worked in courses offering specialization in economics, like strategy marketing, organizational behavior, healthcare statistics, law, analytics, and entrepreneurship at even ISB. She worked in almost all public policy and healthcare courses at ISB with renowned experts across the globe, and even audited and credited courses at ISB in data mining, statistics, healthcare, decision sciences, research methods, etc. Her research interests mainly include healthcare, public policy, and artificial intelligence. She has even presented more than 24 papers in national and international conferences and published around 13 papers in books and journals, and even participated in various workshops and training programs. She was also invited as distinguished speaker in various national and international platforms, like to deliberate on cybersecurity and government regulation at international conference on pathways to progress, the strategic role of research and innovation in India's socio-economic development 2025 Eternal University, Himachal Pradesh. She also participated in various other such national and international conferences. Like one, she was also invited as a panelist at International Conference on Innovations in Public Performance Management, Lessons for Policymakers, organized by MDI Gurgaon, India, along with other panel members. So it is indeed an honor to have with us today Dr. Vijayata Sharma ma'am, who will be enlightening all of us on the topic entitled From Purpose to Impact, Designing Research That Matters. Over to you, ma'am.
thank you, Dr. Madhurima, for such an enlarged introduction, and thank you, Director Sir, for inviting me for the FTP. Let me share my slides, and then we can talk about a topic which is, I think, is very much relevant to talk in any of the FTPs in the current age. So, I think the slides are visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is. It's visible.
Yeah, so let us talk about a topic which is very much close to my heart. And whenever I attend any of the FDPs, so whenever we do any of the research methodology courses or in classroom sessions, or we go and attend various seminars, conferences in India or abroad, we come across lot of researches. So many participants, they present their research, and after that there is a concluding session, everyone applauds their research, and then everybody comes home and then they keep on doing their research work, their academic work, or whatever work they are entitled to. But what is more important to talk about is the purpose and impact of research that we do or that we ideate to do, because everybody of us is minting some ideas. Every time we are minting some ideas, we are looking at some variables, interaction among the variables, that how one variable impacts the other, what is the impact of another variable on any other variable that another person may be thinking about. So the ideas may range from social topics and scientific topics, because these are the two kind of researches, scientific research and the social research. These two are entirely different. There are different approaches. Like scientific researches, they will be more experimental in nature. Social researches, so they will follow different methodologies, they'll be exploratory in nature. But what is most important to talk about today is the purpose and impact of research, and how shall we design the research which is more impactful, which is purpose based, so that the society benefits from the whatever the researchers ideate, or whatever the uh, intended stakeholders they want from that particular research. So I think this is very very important to talk about the purpose and impact of research. So I want my sessions to be in a discussion mode, so I will be talking few things where I want the inputs from the participant, so that we discuss and then we arrive at certain points which would be useful in looking at the research in a more purposeful or in a more impactful manner. So that is what I intend to in this particular topic. So objectives of the session would be identify purposeful research questions, that how a particular question can be more purposeful. Like how can we derive the purpose out of that topic? Like I may be doing research on social topics, like I do research on maternal and child health. So my research would deal with looking at some outcomes, that how can we improve the immunization rates, what is the impact of different variables on the immunization rates of children in particular regions. So tribal areas may have some other problems, the rural areas in a particular state, they may have some other problems, urban citizens, they may have some other problems. But then when we coincide all those problems, we will then look for certain solutions to it. So they might be facing some similar challenges, and in order to solve those similar challenges, we need to identify certain strategies which will be useful to cater to those challenges. Like while I was doing research, so what I found was there is a lot of malnutrition among children. So during malnutrition, I came to know that the measurement tools are not proper. So what the purposeful research would be like, we can integrate the scientific research along with the social research, and then we can develop some tools in order to measure the malnutrition, and then we can guide the ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, that these are the tools. Like nowadays we talk of lot of AI and analytics also. So the government organizations, they can partner with the NGOs or any technology firms or startups. So since we have those tools, so we would be able to measure the malnutrition. When we are able to measure the malnutrition, we will be able to identify proper solutions to overcome the problems of malnutrition. The government would be having more data pertaining to it. And when the government is having the data pertaining to the malnutrition, then the strategies can be made more effectively. So here the purpose of research would be to identify the malnutrition, which may not be happening in a right way. So how we would be identifying malnutrition, so what the government should do, what the NGOs should do, and what the citizen as the stakeholders they should be doing in identifying malnutrition. Similarly, purposeful research is also something. Suppose scientific research and social science research, these are the two things. So in science, we would say that we have made some app or tool where it would be very feasible to measure the malnutrition of children. And in social sciences, we say these are the statistics we are saying. But then we can say there are different attitudes of the people. People may not be very much ready to adopt those tools, or those tools may not be very much welcoming to the ASHA workers. The ASHA workers are the people who will go to the household and measure the malnutrition, so they may not adopt those tools. So here there comes the role of the government. So how the government would draw the strategies in order to convince the ASHA, in order to do the behavioral change. So where they will look for some insights from some social scientists. So maybe some social scientist has gone to the ground, he has talked to the ASHA worker, he has done some focus group discussions with the ASHA workers, and then he came to know that these are the challenges ASHA workers were doing. But then the solution lies in identifying those challenges and then integrating it to the policy. When we integrate it to the policy, only then the purpose would be solved. So research is not an isolated thing that we isolated from the government machinery, we isolated from the academia, from the industry, and then it is happening like because many researches are happening nowadays. I don't say that they are not purposeful or impactful, but when the research ends, when I have written a paper, I have devised certain policy recommendations. What happens to the research after that? There may be many good researchers across the country and internationally also who are maybe doing very good in their research work, but is that research coming to the ground? Are their findings coming into the notice of the government? Or are the stakeholders a citizen or any in citizen, they may be different kinds of people, younger generation, older generation, students, or they are harnessing the gains of that research. So we need to identify this very pertinent question, that how can we make the research which is happening across all educational institutions, all research institutions in different international bodies. There are international bodies like the World Bank and other agencies who are also funding lot many researches. So are we actually doing the research from a purpose, or is there a need to do that research or not? So are the academic institutions identifying that need to do the research while funding the researches? Because if I am doing a research, because many times I also say, like there are scholars who will come to and they will say that they want to do this survey, and then what is the purpose of that survey? Because many other people might have done that survey and there may be results of that survey, so everybody would be doing that survey in this locale or that locale, but then we are also consuming their time. So instead of that, if the institutions also identify the need of doing a purposeful research and disseminate certain information with regard to purposeful research and impactful research with the different stakeholders like faculty, students, and other people who might be attached to the research institute. So it would be very useful in giving a direction to the research, so that no research happens which is not meaningful. Like not meaningful, I don't say that research is not meaningful, obviously when we have some insights, but it is not purposeless, or it is not aimless, it is not replicatory in nature. So this is very important to identify the purposeful research questions, because within a similar topic we can have certain questions which may be very purposeful, we can have certain questions which may be very generic, which are only looking at the correlation or only looking at the impact. But then when we dig down the topic, we may come across a question which is the real question to solve, which everyone might be struggling across the government, across the private players, or any other stakeholders like community to solve. So that question is very much pertinent to study. That may be a single question. So instead of devising four questions, I can have one question which is very much pertinent, which everybody wants to hear, and then that becomes a purposeful research question. So here I may give an example, because when I was doing my PhD, so I did my PhD in maternal and child health. So while doing my PhD, I identified an issue that the women who are delivering at the health centers, they were not very happy with the attitude of the nurses, with the attitude of the ASHA workers. So it was striking in my mind, because in one of the instance, what happened? So ASHA worker took that woman to the health center, to the nearby PSC, and that lady was not comfortable with the attitude of the ANM. She did not wanted to deliver her baby in the government hospital or the PSC. But due to emergency, the ASHA worker took her to the PSC. And then she was scared of the ANM, because maybe the ANM was very rude. So she did not wanted to get operated from that ANM. So what she did, she just made an excuse. This is a very real incident. So she made an excuse that I want to go to the washroom. So from the washroom, there was a wall of the PSC, because in PSS, in the rural areas, the walls are broken. She just fled from there, and in a very hurriedly, and then without telling the Asha or anybody there. And then when she reached the home, she was already in the state of childbirth. So the Sarpanch, who was already the member of the in the that governance member of the she was also relative to that lady. So the servant held her in delivering the baby, because she's also the relative. So Asha did not know. They waited there that she is not coming back from the washroom. So the Asha worker, then they thought that maybe something happened. Then they looked around. She was not anywhere. Then the Asha also went back, and then she already saw that the baby was already born. So that was, she was scared from the attitude of the ANM. So something struck me that there is a bit, maybe she encountered bad behavior or some comments from the ANM or anything like that, so that she did not wanted to get operated. So I also searched across. So there's a term called obstetric violence. So that is the violence on the woman during their childbirth. So that violence may be verbal, it may be physical, they may be forced procedures. So I wrote a piece on obstetric violence. So I searched across. This kind of violence is happening all across, and all the cases they are going to the Human Rights Commission. And here also in India, there are a lot of cases of obstetric violence where women have been abused verbally, and lot many verbal slangs are common in the rural areas of the country. So I thought that there should be some policy regarding it. So that is how, like, we identify the purposeful research question. Maybe I'm doing a research. During that research, I encountered something that struck me, and then we can look upon it, and then we can search in detail more about it, so that we identify issues which are there, which other people may not be knowing, and solving those issues, we can create a better conditions for the people. Like here, we can have a better maternal health guidelines for the institutions, so that no woman should face these kind of things in future, because it is also the dignity of the woman which is very important, and childbirth is a very important phase in the woman's life. So similarly, purposeful research questions can exist anywhere, whether we are talking of climate change. A lot of changes are happening, like heat wave was there, so everybody was talking about the heat wave, impact of heat wave on the mortality, how many people. But these are the statistical things that okay, we look at the impact on the productivity, on some other indicators. But what are the real reasons which are leading to the heat wave rise? What are the human induced climate change matters? So how can we control those human induced climate change indices? So what the government should give in terms of guidelines, what the citizens and stakeholders should do, because we may be emitting certain heat to the environment which is getting captured, and then it is also creating a problem. So if that solution is studied scientifically along with certain social indicators, I think then we can actually arrive at certain things which are more purposeful to study. So what I mean to say that we have to just routinize the channel of research which is more impactful and which is very much purposeful before we define our research questions. Because suppose we have a similar topic, everybody would be doing a similar review out of it, a topic, but what research questions we frame would depend upon the gaps which we take from the literature, and also the relevance of the current study to the current regime. So from there we can identify the purpose of that research. So which is very much important in the both in the scientific research and in the social sciences, because we all are, I suppose, social scientists, so we are talking more of the social sciences. Then another thing is that designing research that creates a real world change. Are we doing research only for the purpose of doing research, or are we thinking to create a changed environment in the future? Suppose everybody talks about the family values in our country, that it is the family values in India which binds the cultures together, which binds the people together. Now, on the other side, the people talk about westernization, then more development is happening in the West. And then there are also researches that when the Indians go to the West, they survive most the culture, so they have least mental health problems, their incomes and salaries are greater. Like if we see the data of USA, the average US earns around 6,000 something, and the average Indian is 1.2, so that is greater than the average salary of the United States, and it is due to the family values that the Indian students reach, because they are more risk pro, they know how to survive in a situation. So these are the certain things which have come out of research. So now how can we create a research which creates a real world impact? Because everybody till now we're talking about the westernization, that we need to adopt the West culture, West is doing that good. So do we need to have a research for our Indian values or for the Indian knowledge system as well? If it is creating impact, if it is having an impact in terms of more survival, a better work culture, so that means that research would be very useful. It can create a real world change. And as we know that, like I was looking at the data of the GDP of the different countries. So I looked at the data of the first century, of the 10th century. So when I looked back, so the GDP of India and China was
Sorry to
highest.
bother you, ma'am. Slides are not moving.
Yeah, so I am on the session objective slide,
Okay.
so I will be moving it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, so what I mean is to that designing research that creates a real world change. That is why I'm giving examples, because we have to identify the research topics, and from those research topics, we need to create questions that can create a real world change, and that has an impact. Like if you're talking of country like India, so it should be having impact for like whatever knowledge system we want to promote. So this is what I want to talk. And then engage stakeholders for the relevance. So we would be talking in our discussions a lot of stakeholders, why it is very much relevant to engage all the stakeholders, so that the whatever purposeful research we do, so it is also evidenced by the stakeholders, they should be also satisfied by that mode of research. And then it's reflect on balancing purpose and impact. So our research can be impactful, but is that research also purposeful? So let us see. So how we can create a balance between the purpose and the research. So another thing is that why purposeful research matters. So first thing is that we should be moving beyond the publication goals to social transformation, because many times what you see in the real world also, you may see a Nobel laureate, a scientist who may not be having 100 publications or this much scopus or this much ABD. So that is very important. We should be doing ABDC research, but then one research may be very impactful. Like if I talk of Muhammad Yunus, he gave the concept of self-help groups. So that changed the whole scenario of employment of the women. So and that also made a situation that women came out of the poverty by having employment, by registering their group to the bank, and then by starting some skillful activities. So those researches are very important. So that is why we say that publication goal is very important, but more important is the social transformation. So while I am defining my research question, my publication goal would be fulfilled after doing the research review of literature. Will that research will have social transformation? Is that research going to make an impact on the lives of the people? Are I'm going to have some objective or some findings which will be very useful to the people, and which can make some which can serve some purpose which the government would already be struggling to find. Because when Muhammad Yunus did the research, so he did not know that it will have that larger impact. So currently if we see out of the research of Muhammad Yunus or SHG bank linkage program, so we have ASHA workers in our country who is going to the household, collecting the data, helping the women, helping the other disease control program. So health indicators have improved. That means there was a purpose. If due to the work of ASHA workers, health indicators are improving, and then the not only the health indicators are improving, if we see the declining indices of the diseases, so diseases are also getting captured at an earlier stage.
Sachidananda sir, please mute yourself.
Yeah. So if anyone is having any questions, so I'm okay. So you can also ask the questions, because I want it in the very interactive mode. Yes. So what I mean to say that, is the research making impact in the form of social transformation or not? Are we bridging some critical points that needs to be solved or not? So is the knowledge and action, the gap between the knowledge and action, narrowing down or not? So these are the questions that we need to think while designing a purposeful research topic. Another thing is that the research should align with policy, practice, and innovation. So one of the things should be there. Either we are innovating, because when we do scientific research, we say that we are innovating, we are designing one product which will be very useful. So it will increase the productivity, it will increase other social transformation goals. So then that thing is accepted. It is also patented. But the problem that we face in social problem is that whether the solutions which we propose out of our research has impact on the policy, or it is making some amendment to the policy. Are we going to propose a new policy? So are we adding some practices to the already existing policy or not? If it is, then how we are approaching the government agency, because I may have done my research and government may not be knowing that somebody has done this research. So how that gap will be bridged by the academic institutions or the research institutions, so that the right research also reaches to the right stakeholder, and then it also reaches the ground in terms of policy in by various implementing agencies. So what kind of structure should be evolved for the research institutions, so that the research becomes more purposeful? So that is the pertinent question which we need to solve today. And then what makes the research impactful? Real world problems. Are we actually studying the real world problems? Or are we only focusing upon that we have learned these things in the research methodology and we are to go by this research methodology? Or this is the literature available in this particular domain? So research should be from the grassroots to the research methods, that these are the problems. I identified this problem, it needs to be solved, and then this is what the people have talked about this problem in this manner. But I want to talk about this problem in this particular manner because I think these people are facing issues in this particular way. I may be wanting to study the gender issues in healthcare, I may be wanting to study the caste issues in healthcare. So I may be having the different opinions when I start my research, and when I complete my research, it is also possible that I may be having very different set of findings which I just observed during my insights when I started the research, and then those findings are also solving the real world problem. So that means then that research would be impactful. And then we say that the research is impactful when we generate measurable outcomes. We can create evidence out of that research. That means that can be included in the policy. People can be made more aware about those things. Like I talked about obstetric violence. Maybe the women who are going for delivery to the health centers, they are not aware because there may be too much of patriarchy. And then they say that it is okay to have these comments. We just hear these comments during these phases in our life, because if we talk of stigmas, there may be other stigmas also. There's a stigma regarding menstruation also. So everybody has some comments, or there's a things like eve teasing. So certain things are absorbed. But when we do the research, you can say that no, you are an individual. So there are certain dignity of a woman, there are human rights issues. If those things need to be told to the people, how, and if it is through a policy, that is through a structured document, then everybody would adhere to it. If some case comes to the panchayat, then panchayat would be able to solve that case in a rightful manner. So that means that the research is making an impact in terms of social lives of the people. And then very important question is involving the end users early. So if my research is based upon young girls, suppose the menstruation stigma that they face, and if I involve those at the early stages in life, early stages during the research, so it will be very easy to generate the awareness, because I may be knowing that how to create awareness among these girls. So I may also be knowing certain insights, and they will also get to know that yes, these things needs to be changed. So this is how we engage the end users, so the research will be more impactful. So here, if we also take the case of an industry, I am developing a product. So if I know ki how my customers will be satisfied with which feature, I do a survey, like I do a marketing survey, so it will be very easy to identify that how my product will become the best seller. So if I engage the end users early, so it will be very useful in making the research more impactful. Another benefit is that it promotes equity and inclusion. So when we talk of social research, the inclusion becomes easy because the research would be more broad based. I may be covering greater issues, so everybody's question would be there, everybody's point would be there, so and everybody will feel included to be part of that policy. Nobody we will not have to spend extra effort to create a behavioral change among that particular segment of the population. So that means the research would be more inclusion, and then we can create more equity by way of research, by designing the research questions in a manner that would be more impactful. So another thing which is very important is from curiosity to purpose. So what are the guiding principles of research? What are the guiding questions of research? What social challenges interest you? So here, the attitude of the researcher, the will of the researcher, willingness of the researcher, alignment of the researcher to a particular direction of research is very important. Suppose I am very much depend that there are environmental changes happening, so I'm very much concerned about it. I go and talk about climate a lot to the other people, so that is the challenge that interests me. Another person may be talking about the issues of the LGBTQ, another person may be talking about the feminism. So we need to identify what are the core areas as a researcher that interests me, because if I am not curious to about anything that I want to research upon, then the purpose, it will not lead to a very good research. So very important is to know that what social challenges interest you, what are the knowledge gaps, what are the other researches that has happened till now, and how I approach that particular issue, how important that issues is, who benefit if the issue is solved. So these are the certain things that should be of the interest of the researcher. So may I have it in an interaction mode? May I also ask my respondents that what are the challenges that interest you, so that we can discuss on those challenges, and then we can try to know ki how the research would be more impactful with regard to those challenges. Anyone would like to give any input? So it may be like the cause that you care about, that I'm very concerned for the cause of the animals. There should be shelter houses for the animals. Then I'm curious to know ki how many people care about it. What is the role of the government? What is the community opinions regarding that? How do community think about the care for the animals? So that may be another interest to someone else. So by this, I mean to say that curiosity is very, very important, because curiosity lends purpose to the research. So let us identify some social challenges. Climate, so I identified two things which maybe I think I would like to talk: climate resilience and community health, because there is an impact of climate vagaries on the health of the community. So how touched I am by the community health would depend that how that research would be more purposeful. If I'm really bothered to create an impact, so I will definitely dig down certain questions which will be very much relevant for the community health. Then I may arrive at findings which would be very, very relevant per se. And then I may also be looking for the stakeholders where I can make my research live. I may be collaborating with an NGO. I may be going and talking to the NGO. Later on, I may think of collaborating with the NGO. I may go and talk to the government officials, which later on may be inviting me somewhere, or looking at or giving me a chance to tell my research in some platform. Then they may also include some climate resilience points that I may have included as a part of my findings and in my suggestions. So that means if I'm really bothered for the community health, so I would be very serious about it, and I will also try to make a real impact Because one thing which is also done among the scholars is that what I found is that they may copy the things. They may not write the same, but they may write 2 3 points from here, 2 3 points from there, and then they may arrive and with a document which is already done or already known to the other people. So that means what kind of awareness is generated? It is no awareness. So that document may be talking about 10 points of creating awareness, which the government agency may already be doing, which many NGOs may already be working. But then that is all only a duplication of research. So if for the health of the community, I may be having very strong findings, very findings which may not have been known till now, and then I can suggest something. Only then people would welcome my viewpoints. They would be wanting to listen to me. They would be wanting to have my points in their discourses, in their points. So that is very important. So how we are linking the societal challenges to the actual impact through the agencies who can create impact is very, very important. Another topic, like if we think of digital divide and education. So now if we know digital device are prevalent everywhere, even if we go to the rural areas, people are using digital devices. But why not the education indicators in our country improving if the digitization is happening at a fast pace? So this may be a question which could be intriguing me in finding the answers. But then, how to go about this question? Should I be looking at the density of digital devices? Should I be looking at the attitudes of the people of digital devices? Should I be looking at the how they are benefiting digital devices in their educational endeavors? How much information they are getting? Whether that information is useful, or they're actually interested to pursue their educational goals after receiving information from the digital devices. So that entirely depends upon the researcher, will of the researcher, that how a researcher particularly want to have a societal have a look at the societal challenge. Because if we see the educational indicators, in the primary schools, pre-primary schools, there are a lot of people are they are enrolling and then they are getting back. So how the digital devices can aid in it? Are there other government policies where we can attach the digital device usage, and then we can not only improve the enrollment but also the educational outcome? So there could be different things surrounding it, which I as a researcher would need to identify, whether I'm looking at the primary education, whether I'm looking at the higher education, or whether I'm looking at the education to the disabled children. So this entirely depends upon the researcher. But the thing is how we are identifying the social challenges. Because once we don't because if we don't identify the social challenges, then the impact will not happen of that research. Impact will also be on certain ground, certain challenge. So we need to identify the social challenges first. Only then we will be able to provide viable solutions to those social challenges, which is very, very important. So here we may also take examples from the public policy, from the thinkers. Like we have studied a lot of thinkers. We have studied Maslow. We have studied Frederick Winslow Taylor. We have studied Mayo. So all those thinkers have given certain concepts which are relevant at that point of time. And then those concepts are also relevant now because those concepts are universal. They are read across disciplines like psychology, economics, sociology, management, public policy. So how those concepts are relevant today? So suppose if we apply the Maslow's hierarchy of need in the current challenges. So if we apply to the educational sector, public education, so which need is getting fulfilled? So if we see in the public education, belongingness and esteem need, that yes, whether the belongingness of the people are there, of that community are there, whether they want to get enrolled to the higher educational or a primary educational institutions, whether their esteem needs are getting fulfilled. when they are completing the education or not. So that is also very important, because we also have to see the theoretical base and then identify the challenges, apply to those challenges. If we see the universal basic income, so if everybody is having a reasonable income, reasonable purchasing power parity, so we would be able to satisfy the physiological needs or the safety needs. So this is how the thinkers are also coming relevant in the today's age. Mental health problems will help in the self actualization. Like if we are able to eradicate mental health problems, if we are able to lessen the mental health problems among different sections of the society, so that will help in self actualization. So this is how identifying the purposeful topics or impactful topics will help in theory building. They will have insights from the theory building, and then again will give inputs towards the further theory building of the various theories that have been known to us till now. So you being the respondents to this FDP, I would ask you to identify certain unmet needs in your area of interest. So your area of interest may be environment, maybe health, maybe customer marketing, maybe any other area, whichever interests you. So what are the unmet needs? So if you focus your research on the unmet needs of research, I think we will be able to make the research more purposeful and more impactful in nature. So how do we design a research for impact? So in a research process, there's a participation choice points that we come at. The first is the information is provided to the community. Then consult, input is obtained from the community. So because I have to tell about a concept to a community, and then the community will also give certain insights regarding that, what they think about that particular concept, what they think about if they have those gains or if they don't have those gains. Then another is involved. The researchers, they directly involve with the community. So there may be different kinds of researches. So in if we are having an action research, the involvement component will be more. Then collaborate. Community is a partner in the research process. The community also starts liking the concept and they will start working over it. And then this will lead to empowerment. So this is how the community empowerment also happens, by having a topic which is very purposeful, and then a kind of action research could also be evolved over that topic. So there could be various design elements to it. One is the practical application. Is there a direct utility of findings? So once I am evolving with the community, I'm trying to evolve a model of like empowerment, suppose for the tribals in that community. Is there a direct utility of the findings? How would I gain if the tribals are more involved in a healthcare program? Suppose the immunization in the country was happening 95%, 5% were the tribal people were not coming. So that means there's a utility to the findings. Am I informing the policy? Am I making some practice changes in the practical practices that are part of the policy in the action plans? Am I making some innovative change, creating an influence? So this is how I design my research for impact. And then in the social sciences, most important is the behavioral impact, that is awareness or adoption. Am I creating a right awareness out of my research? That is, what is the probability that how dense I have created the questions, that the awareness generated is absolute. It will lead to the inclusion, it will lead to the equity, it will the policy will be adopted very readily by the people. The change is happening very readily in a very good manner. So that means I have created an impact for my research. and the policy is valid, because the readiness of the people will also determine whether the policy is right, whether the policy is fulfilling the needs of the people. Suppose we may take an example of affordable housing policy. So if we are having the affordable housing policy that satisfy the safety needs of the people, everybody wants to have a house. So if the incomes of the people are not up to the mark, that they are not able to afford the house from their salaries, so what kind of housing policy, what kind of loan scheme, or what kind of solution the government should provide, because citizens are residents of a country. So if we are talking about fundamental rights like right to health, right to education, right to housing, whether that kind of thing should be there as per our constitutional mandate, whether the government should be thinking about providing housing policy to the people. So how should we design that policy around? What are the viewpoints of the people of different sections of the society, that how they want to get their safety needs addressed, and then how the government should strategize on the housing policy, so that there is a match between the impact and the purpose. Because it may also not happen that the government cannot provide anything from its pocket, because everything is the taxpayers money. So how to fulfill the purpose and how to have the impact also. So there may be a lot of critical questions that needs to be solved, that needs the attention of the researchers, that needs that researchers should think deep and evolve certain models for those solutions. So this is how the designing of impact will happen. So how do housing subsidies influence urban families' well-being? So that is also very important. So like this way, there could be n number of research questions with the researcher can identify and go to the field, collect the information, and then devise a model after having studied that questions, or doing that interview with the stakeholders. So this is all the research is all about, that how we are creating impact. And one of the most important factor which is very much relevant is stakeholders and the method. I need to identify my stakeholders very well, that who are the communities I am talking about in my research, who are the communities which will benefit from my research, and why do I want to invest my time in doing research for those communities. That is very much important. Are they part of any of our sustainable development goals, any of the national policy priorities, any of the state government priorities, or are those needs not met by the state government, national government, or the international agencies? Are there gaps in it? So that is the reason that I have identified these communities and I am studying these communities, because I may be able to fulfill certain interests which would be very useful or impactful for the coming generations. So identifying the stakeholders, identifying the communities is very important. Then government as a stakeholder, industry as a stakeholder. Suppose I'm doing research in marketing, I'm doing research in operations, so I have to set up a a right model for the healthcare center, that so I have to identify how many patients would be expected in this hospital, how many patients would be coming in, how many patients would be going out. So there are formulas, like what I know, there's a little formula that calculates this. But then what new I want to invent, what new I want to innovate, that must be very much relevant for the industry. And who are the industry people as stakeholders I would be interviewing? Who are the people having more knowledge about this topic? Because I may be a beginner, I may be starting my research, but I need to consult the people who have rich experience in that particular area, in that particular topic. So identifying the stakeholders is very much pertinent. And another thing, stakeholders is also who would be my respondents. what kind of research methodology I would be having to collect data from those respondents. So that is also very much useful for the researcher to identify. Another is that ensuring credibility. I need to ensure the credibility of my research. That is whether my data is reliable, what kind of research methods I would be using, whether I'm using primary method, primary data collection, whether I'm using secondary data. If I'm using the secondary data, am I taking the latest data? Am I quoting the sources from where I have taken the data? Am I making valid questions out of that secondary data, which will actually need of the hour, which will actually create an impact? So that is very much important. So my data should be open to everyone, like from where I have collected the secondary data, collected the primary data, what kind of secondary data I have, because that defines the credibility of the researcher. And then how am I disseminating my research? Obviously, they will go to the journals, good journals in the form of publications. They will go to the policy briefs with the government agencies. They will go to the media. Then the researcher might be going to the public forums. He or she will be disseminating the research to the other stakeholders. They may be the researchers, students, or a particular industry people. So that is the impact of the research should be known more widely. Everybody is made aware of that research, what the researcher has done. The research should not be in the corner of the research room where the researchers sit and do their research. The benefits of the research should be harnessed widely. Then is the impact indicators, awareness, change, and policy mention. So after my research, is there awareness change? Suppose someone has done a longitudinal study, like after my research, and then the awareness change is noticed. My research has gone to the public policy, like it has become a part of the one of the implementing agency, and then the government do some monitoring and evaluation studies, and then they have noticed some awareness change, they have noticed some change in the outcomes. So is that getting mentioned anywhere? So this is very high impact which I am talking about. Is my policy, my research, whatever I invented, whatever I patented, is mentioned anywhere in the government, in the national government, at the level of the international government or not? So that is how we check the impact of our research. For example, we may take the example of a digital India, research on digital literacy gaps among women. So there may be some targeted training programs. So I may have done some research where I may say that this could be the training modules or training needs. So how the change has happened in terms of outcome, in terms of measurable outcomes. So that will definitely show that how sound my methods were, that how sound my stakeholder consultation was when I initially started my research process, that that the process of my research is very sound. So on that only depend the impact of my research, or the purpose, or whether I've solved the purpose of that solved particular purpose which the government agencies have been struggling for long. So it is very important to look at the stakeholders and the methods of our research, um, which may try to bring the impact into the research process. Another thing is share and reflect. When I share my research findings, when I reflect on the suggestions which I have made out of my study, is there any clarity in that? Are the different stakeholders, different people who are listening to me, who are reading my research, getting clarity of what I intended to study and what are the conclusions I arrived at? Or is there any confusion or ambiguity in my suggestions? Is there a mismatch between the research methods that I have chosen, or the outcomes that have achieved from that research, which is very much important. Is my language simple, or is it too complex, difficult to understand? So, which is very important while writing a media piece or disseminating my research to the audience, how I am approaching the academic audience, how I am approaching the researchers for the same piece of research, how I'm approaching the student, how I'm approaching the community level stakeholders, how I'm approaching and disseminating my research to the policy level people. So, a heightened sense of clarity would bring more impact to the research. Another is the relevance. So, relevance. So, am I fulfilling certain needs of the people? Is the other side things? Yes, this was the actual need of the time, and this research addresses this. So that defines the level of relevance of my research. Another very important thing is the impact pathway. One is the impact, another is the impact pathway. That impact will not happen in a day. What would be the pathway? What would be the strategized pathway of impact? That is also very important. Are the people understanding it, or is the researcher need to deliberate on the impact pathway? Let this, we are not able to achieve this on a single day. It will happen over a period of 5 years. In first year we can do this, second year this, and then we can have a very good we say maternal health. Suppose we are talking about the implementation of maternal health guidelines, we are talking about respectful maternal health, that we would be able to achieve respectful maternal health in the next 5 years. These are the guidelines that the people at the different policy level have to follow, and this is how we will be able to achieve this. Then innovative links to Maslow's framework, like we have studied about Maslow's framework and societal benefits. So there may be a lot of innovations which are happening now, which can be integrated back to the theoretical frameworks which the thinkers have already given. Like we talk of the Hawthorne effect. So certain changes in the Hawthorne effect are always possible. There can be the different things which can be observed across the organizational culture. We may innovate certain new term, and that term can be used widely in research. Anything can happen any day, but it will only happen if we think of research in a more impactful manner, in a more purposeful manner. If this thing is feeded to the minds of the researcher, that you only have to do research, at least you have to think that you need to create an impact. So only then the impact will happen, which is very critical. So that means that the sharing and reflection of the research should be done in a very rightful manner, and there should be directions for everyone, like the government agencies, stakeholders, community people, researchers, so that the research is met widely across uh, all stakeholders. Then reflection prompts. Reflection prompts are very important. How does your topic fulfill human societal needs? So once I have done my research, is this reflection prompt coming to me after doing my research, after writing my suggestions, everything, policy brief, that I have solved this particular human or societal need? Yes, my research is novel, my research is unique. So, this is the feeling that the researcher should be getting. What distinguishes purposeful from the generic research? So, this is the feeling which distinguish purposeful research from the generic research. Purposeful research will always be welcomed by everyone. The researcher would also be very much confident about the finding, because he know that he has done the right thing. He have just uh, got clutch of the right problem, and then he has tried to solve it. Then another is the what challenges exist in balancing purpose and impact. So there may be some challenges, because research is not an easy task. It is not easy to look at a problem from an angle which everybody might not have. There may be challenges of going to the field, convincing the people. There may be challenges of taking permission from the government agencies, because when you try to make an impact, you are thinking something new, something may not be very much welcoming by the people. So there can be a lot of challenges, because when we just walk on a lane which is already made by anyone, it is too easy. Then there can be challenges of time as well. You may need to invest more time in that, because when you just want to invent, just for example, we if we look at the journey of Muhammad, so while he was creating SHG bank linkage program, so he was time and again going to the banks, convincing them they don't take the collateral, these women will work and then they would be paying their loan. So he faced a lot of issues from the banks. Then he was going to the government agencies, and at the same time, he was working with the community, asking them to do a skillful work. But then certainly, then he had some good results from the community, by way of which he was able to convince the bank. So impactful research, if any researcher want to aim for, so the challenges are the first thing that would be there on the field. So that is very much important to digest also. Like if I want to do some thing good, if I want to create an impact, so obviously challenges would be the first thing that would be there on the ground. What are the common pitfalls that we face? So many times the research can be overtly abstract or theoretical. Now, what is meant by abstract or theoretical? So these are the problems that many researchers face. That it is abstract and it is theoretical, there is no practicality to it. Many times I may think of a solution to a problem which may be very abstract, which I may be thinking that how to implement it, what where to go and talk about it, because nobody is thinking my way, everybody is thinking on the other line, and the practice also different kinds of things are there on the ground. So these are the challenges which the researcher have to overcome. There could be no clear beneficiary. Many times the researchers are not able to identify the beneficiaries. They may innovate a model, which means that it is out of the context. So researchers need to understand that the research is contextual. They should identify the beneficiaries very clearly. Only then they can talk to different stakeholders, because many times researcher may say that my idea is very strong. The idea may be very strong, but it should be relevant also. The relevance of the research is very important. There could be a weak stakeholder engagement. My research may be meant for the women community who belong to a particular caste, but if the research in the research I'm not getting more inputs from them, the stakeholder engagement is very weak, then what will happen? So it will not fulfill any research purpose. I may just be writing a theory of that, and that may not be very useful in the long run, which is some many times the researchers they do these pitfalls, but when guided properly they may overcome all these. If the research is through guidance at every level, so they may be able to overcome those challenges and create impact of those research. Then no plan for dissemination or measurement. If I have done my research and the plan that how I would be disseminating my research, where I would be selling my research, where I would be promoting my research, then if it is not there in terms of any social research or marketing research or any other operations research, and if I may not be able to measure it, do any evaluation or measurement for it, so that means that the research will not yield much result. So these are the important things that we think that should be avoided by the researchers by creating a purposeful and impactful research. Then what are the tools for impactful research? Theory of change models. I think every researcher should study the change models in that particular area, how the change is happening over time in the society, how the change in healthcare systems are happening, if we are studying environment in that manner, if we are studying operations, marketing. So what are the change models? What are the like, if I talk of technology, what are the, there's a TAM model, technology adaptation model. So various theories are prevalent. So that means I need to understand the pace of change, the modes of change, in order to devise research which could yield more impact. Then impact pathway mapping, that how I would be mapping the pathway of my research, which is also very significant. Now, what do you understand by pathway mapping? That at every step I have to see that how much beneficiaries, like if it is for the beneficiary, it is for the inclusion, whether it is going to create an impact at the state level, at the district level over a period of this time. If I give these incentives to the people, like incentives may not be sufficient, then behavioral change is given. So how the pathway mapping is done for the step, that is step by step how we are disseminating the findings of the research. So that is very important. Stakeholder analysis is very, very important. So in order to do the stakeholder analysis, what is very important is that we should be having the right kind of stakeholders, and those stakeholders should also be interested in giving viewpoints for the research. Because if we have reached the like government office, suppose in my, I'm doing research on a topic, but then there is a little involvement of those stakeholders. They may not be interested, or they may be concealing some data, giving some data. So that will not be very useful. It will not yield any benefits to my research. So stakeholder analysis is very important. So I may approach the research in a way that I may be able to convince them for the research so that I get right information if there are limited number of stakeholders. So how the right consultations would be done with the stakeholders is also very much important. Nowadays, we are also talking about AI and data integration for relevance and scale. Nowadays, we are talking about the forecasting of research, developing models like we are developing ARIMA model or any other model. So how we can integrate AI, data integration into our research process, so that it is also becoming relevant with time, that what kind of models we have used, what kind of softwares we have used, data analysis tools that we have incorporated in our research process, so that it also makes impact in terms of relevance with the time. So these are different tools to making our research more impactful. Then the key takeaways from the session are the research, which is with the purpose, which is with the process, and the people. People means the how it could be applied to the people, how it could be the solving the needs of the people is more impactful. So we can say that we can plan for use, not just knowledge, because we may be generating knowledge, we may be adding things at a part of a knowledge process, we may be adding to the theories, but in practice, if we are not making impact, then the research will not be much valid. And on the other hand, if we create impact of that research, we are solving a particular problem, societal problem. It could be caste based problem, it could be climate problem, or it could be any problem of the women. Many women are suppose facing menopause early, so what kind of work life balance should be there, like working life problem. So if we are able to solve that problem, and if we are able to do that through a right process, I may be doing a research, but it may not be reaching that industry where the women are facing such problem. And if the people are not benefiting, that means it is lacking purpose of that research. So we need to evolve a formula for this, that how purpose, process, and people will integrate and will create a rightful research for the future. And then interdisciplinarity is the another thing, that how we would be collaborating across the disciplines, because no discipline is isolated. When we talk of the society, when we talk of the welfare, so all of us are, need to gain some benefits from different angles. Like I being a woman, so I may be thinking that yes, my family life should be good, work life should be good. Then I may be having some health issues, so how the government is tackling that climate issues, so how we are integrating different disciplines, so that is also very important in the current domain. Then measure what matters, and that means that we are measuring what matters to the people. I may having three main problem, another person may be having two main problem. So is there any indices? Is that kind of indices could be developed where we get to know the problems of the people, that what needs to be studied, or it is just by way of hunch that one researcher feels like studying this. So curiosity is very important. Are we having curiosity for the right kind of problem that needs to be solved? If we are having right kind of curiosity, only then we can create a real world change to the people. So I think these are the prominent takeaways from my session. And if anybody is having any question regarding it, or anybody wants to discuss anything, so I'm open for it. I think we can take some questions or do some discussions.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for your detailed analysis of how research goes on and its impact on society, the different societal challenges on policy making, and also the important key takeaways. Thank you very much for such an insightful session. Now, I would like to request the participants, if they have any queries, observation, or feedback, you can please unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat box, which will be addressed to our guest speaker for today. Any queries, anything to discuss on, any observation, and also feedback for today's session, that is very essential.
And if you also feel like that we can make the research more impactful in a certain way, so I would also love to hear those insights.
Yes. No questions, nothing? We also have participants from Nigeria also. Nigeria, India. Anything you would like to discuss? Any observation? That is also welcome.
There's a question somebody has written. In Nigeria, we have issues on insecurity, gender, climate, and healthcare. Yes, the context of different issues would be different across different continents. So, how insecurity is perceived in Nigeria, that may be very different from how we think of insecurity in India or any other developing country, or a country which have least problems. So, what kind of indicators impact the insecurity? That is very important to study, that how we would be able to create a secure environment for the people. So identifying insecurity is very important. Then gender, climate, healthcare, yes, these are the common issues. These issues may feel very common to the people, but anything, like when we also read the research of some thinker, sometimes we feel that it is so in depth, it is so detailed. The concept is very simple, climate. So while we are delivering our research, it should be simple in terms of dissemination, but it should be in depth in terms of concepts that we dig down into. So that would be very useful. Like if these issues are studied across different continents in the way where it could be studied in a much better way or with a much better methodology.
Any other queries? Ma'am has very nicely elaborated on how, research would be impacted and how research can be designed that is very impactful in our society, along with the societal challenges. This is extremely essential for our research, be it in master's, PhD, it is extremely useful. Okay, so I don't think so there are any queries or any observation. So thank you so much, ma'am. My sincere gratitude to you for accepting this invitation and enlightening all of us on a very important issue on research methodology, how useful it is in social sciences, and of course for policy making. Thanks a lot. We look forward to future endeavors with you. We are coming up with more events on International Conference on Gender Studies and Social Studies, which will be held in a hybrid mode. So there we would love to have your insight as well as a speaker.
Thank you so much, Madhurima ma'am, for inviting me to speak for this FTP. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My sincere gratitude to our respected director, sir, Professor Dr. Avindu Naik, sir. He couldn't be present throughout the session because of some urgent meeting at his university. So without his help and guidance, nothing is possible. So thanks a lot, sir. And of course, to the participants, the assignment link for today has been shared with you in the chat box. Kindly fill it up by the end of today. Remember, submission of assignment is very important for availing the certificates. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, ma'am. My sincere gratitude for taking your time. Thanks a lot.